many of your product managers here? Yeah, I'm just asking that question. How many of your product managers here? Only one. Cool, dude.
Reasons.
Bro, yeah, I think the biggest mistake that anybody in any organization makes is they don't trademark their policies. Also, they don't trademark their processes in hand. I think how many of you are SOC 2 compliant? Like your companies are SOC 2 compliant, ISO 127000001. That a typical product manager takes in order to go through all this. Understanding the requirement, gathering, yes, all these things about defining problem statement, create a user story and a user flow. Like you, how many of you do wireframing? Like designers here? Okay, you guys do all, that's great. But it's a big leap to define a product feature and prioritization, right? In a similar fashion, it's a big leap for an engineer to promise that there is security embedded within the tight organization shift that is going on. That means like, we say shift left, but do we really do shift left every time that we commit the code? How many of you think that you guys have that shift left strategy right on, spot on shift left strategy once you do that code commit push or whatever it is? Okay, if you're claiming that, that's great, it's good for you. But in a similar fashion, just imagine a DevOps dude has to go through the process of talking to a product manager, talking to a developer, दोनों तरफ से गाली खा के, बाद में, like he has to deploy something which gives out business KPI, service level objective and agreements. It makes no sense if there is no security agreement that is created. That is where I talk about the trademarks, because the lot of times when we think about like, we are SOC 2 compliant, we are ISO 1270001, because there is an compliance, that one headache that you yourself created to yourself, that there is an IT guy coming to you and saying, why didn't you assign a policy to this guy when you gave him an access to the cloud or whatever the nonsense it is. But trademarking as an approach in an IDP is much more simple and faster, because I've been part of the tools where they have defined security within. That means, there is an authorization and authentication that is required in order to do a process. In order to even complete a process, there is an authorization and authentication required. But it's not enough. When you're driving something as an KPI, you need to embed security within every process. So I'll just go to this slide. How many of you consider Azure as an open system? How many of you are on Azure, by the way? Okay, very less Azure. Why, man? Are you guys loving the Azure? Like, if you guys are implementing something on Azure, are you guys really loving it? Okay, that's a very controversial question. I hope there is nobody from Microsoft here. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse of why I'm talking about trademarking and policy management in a bigger organization. Because every teams, even if you consider a bigger team like, what do you call this? Even the DevOps Days India, they had to deal with so many SaaS tools today, right? Confab is one SaaS tool. There's another tool that they had to reach out. There is a Kahoot quiz which is happening. That's a SaaS tool at the end of the day. Just imagine the amount of software that is getting used here. Just imagine the way any company is using a SaaS platform on the other side, but still there's no security embedded inside it. What I wanted to convey in this talk is not anything that is like a fancy CI/CD or anything, because I have very less time. But I wanted to say that trademark some of your security practices as soon as possible. Because any security breach need not have to be a Metasploit payload which is that meager. It can also be an API token that is getting unauthorized and being hit by some hacker out there using a Postman tool, right? So what I wanted to say is policy management, trademarking your security is much more important than just putting a complex cloud infrastructure behind your APIs or anything. And make sure that, there is an approach on cost optimization and other stuff. So I wanted to show you how even a cost optimization software like this can go rogue. So there's a Kira, which was also known as Kubernetes event-driven autoscaling and all these things. This is just an inference on how autoscaling works. But in a similar fashion, even if you consider serverless does the same thing, right? They take events, they start putting out all these things as a scaling factor. I'll just show you a simple demo of like Snike 1DB so that you guys understand, okay, everything that we are using today is either prone to be vulnerable. So Snike 1DB. I know this talk didn't make sense to most of them, but I had to make sure that there's one demo which will say, okay man, it makes sense to some extent. So how many of you learned TensorFlow in your class 15 or something? Like it's like B first year में कुछ पढ़ने का आदत चढ़ गए. So TensorFlow. I'll just type in TensorFlow and you can see that there is denial of service attack that is being detected from different sources already. I'm not making this story up because these are the kind of hacks which has already been done in the people's infrastructure already who are using Kubernetes, and now they have exploited the Kubernetes already. So even a simple package can have a lot of vulnerability. So make sure that you have trademarked your security practices, policy management is on spot so that nobody can outsource your secrets that is supposed to be a secret, and trademark all the trademarks that is there in your organization itself. So that's it, folks. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you,
for the
Vishwa.
clap as well.